have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Oh, look at me. Forgot to bring me picture down. Boo. How are you, folks? Happy Tuesday to you. Interesting night last night, but that's all right. Mondays are always a bit hit and miss with me. You know that. What an interesting week it's turning out to be for a variety of different reasons, can I say. The world seems to be waking up a little more rapidly this week, or am I just imagining that? I think I probably am just imagining that, if truth be told, but we'll get into it shortly. Hello to those early risers, the folks who aren't usually awake for this time of the day. Well, I suppose you're usually awake, just not usually seeing me. The lovely Aussie Sue, first in this morning. God love you, woman. And don't forget, folks, please like, share, and subscribe, as Aussie Sue always tells us. We do need you to do that. Stick the thumbs up, and thank you to Skipper Pete, who's been hyping the show recently. Apparently, he's the only one amongst you who can. I've never even seen the hype button. I don't even know if I get a hype button at my end, but I've never seen a hype button. If you happen to see the hype button, click it for us, will you? Just to see what it does. Be very interested to see at the end of the day. So who else do we have in here this morning? Ready my channel description, or read my channel description. Well, that's an interesting name. I just wanted to know I don't watch your channel even though I'm subscribed, because you do not state the topic in which you're discussing the video titles. I can probably change that for you. Read my channel description. But it's a bit hit and miss, this show. You either join us for the chat or you don't. We don't really care either way, one way or the other. We'd love you to participate, but if all you can do is pick holes in things, fuck off and talk to somebody who cares, because I'm not that person. We do have some interesting things that have been shown in the last few hours. Well, the last day. I would have thought if this person read my channel description was at all half smart, they would have been able to pick up from the channel description that we're going to talk about silver, and we're going to talk about a base of silver of $120 an ounce. It's not anywhere near that at the moment. Can we just point that out? Right now, the market is still open. We are trading 83.6 US dollars, or 119 odd Australian at this juncture. And there are a lot of stories about what silver's going to do and what the market's doing and this, that, and the other thing. Now, of course, we had the big drop there a couple of Fridays ago, which may have taken the wind out of a lot of people's sails. It certainly forced a bit of a panic sell on some people's behalf. And I hope that wasn't you, because the market is doing some weird and wonderful things at the moment. And I'm no avid watcher of the market, but I have to admit over the last month or so, I've taken an extreme interest in it. And it's doing things that people have never seen it do before. There is elements of trading in the market that have never, ever been seen in history. And there are other weird things happening in the background that, well, if you've been following along this channel for a few years, you'll probably say, oh, well, that's, you know, all part of the white hat plan. That's the Q plan. And it could well be. Could part of that plan be the Super Bowl? Now, over the last, I don't know how many years, last 5 or 6, the Super Bowl has been, with entertainment, halftime entertainment at least, getting progressively worse. But if you happen to watch the halftime show yesterday during the American Super Bowl, the biggest American football day of the year, I mean, the whole world comes to a standstill. It's broadcast to most channels, most countries in the world, even though most countries in the world don't have the vaguest understanding of the game. It looks like, well, I'm not going to get into what it looks like. But anyway, it's very difficult to understand. Each team has 40-odd players, an offense and a defense, and there's all these people changing. And very messy, very ugly. Game can go for hours. Boring as batshit. Bit like cricket, I suppose, if you're not into cricket. However, the halftime entertainment is meant to spur everybody up, give them a great big yee-haw and get on. You might remember Sam Smith had his satanic outpouring at the Super Bowl a few years ago with that extremely satanic song of his. I can't even bother remembering the name of it. This time round, they brought in a bloke who apparently is American. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. They don't speak English. They speak Spanish mostly. And that was pretty much what this Bad Bunny character, is that the best he could come up with? Bad Bunny was their headline act. So Bad Bunny has come on. He's sung entirely in, well, whatever the hell he was singing. Nobody understood. But an American TV show host has gone out and had the song translated. And it's filth. Absolute disgusting filth. Now, we know that the deep state love to use things like Olympic opening ceremonies and of course, the Super Bowl, because they get to do that every year. I haven't even seen the Winter Olympics opening ceremony to see what sort of disgusting shit they did to that. I've walked away from the Olympics and, well, that won't be bothered watching it. It's just too wrong for me. You may well be enjoying it, and good luck to you if you are. And I'll be honest, Winter Olympics, if I was going to watch Olympics, would be the ones I'd be into, watching the downhill and the luge and all that sort of stuff. But I can't support these satanic parades, these satanic festivals, and that's all they really are. So you won't be getting too much of an Olympic update from me while the Winter Olympics are on, sadly or otherwise. Who else is floating around? Olivia. Nice to have you in, Olivia. Are you still up Bundy Way? I hope you are. Say good day to our mutual friend, although he's probably closer to me at the moment than he is to you. Bergworth, good morning to you, brother. Hope you are well. And Peter Grace is in the house from Pinaroo. Thank you to Robert. Bulls Nuts is around. Chris Ring. And I think I've covered just about everybody who's awake early. Donna, good morning to you too. So, yeah, the Satanic Super Bowl. Who is Bad Bunny and what sort of a pathetic show was it? Well, for the 13 minutes of the show, of that Super Bowl show, practically everybody inside the stadium, must have been 100 and something odd thousand people there, they didn't see much of that, funnily enough, because what we saw on the television or on the highlight bits was him walking through all this long grass. Well, they had all these people dressed in long grass. And if you were sitting in the crowd, this grass was about 8 feet tall. All you could see was the heads of these people running around through the grass, supposedly famous people miming to their music, I'm guessing. What I never quite fully understood right from the first syllable was why they had a bloke singing in Spanish. And I thought, all right, well, that might be nice to kick it all off with. Maybe they start singing in Spanish. No, they sing the whole 13 minutes in Spanish. This bloke apparently, I've never heard of. I mean, has he ever had a hit here in Australia? Has anybody ever heard of him? Could he raise more audience than can fill a pub on a Saturday afternoon somewhere? Probably 130 people on a good night. Certainly no talent. Doesn't have much of a voice, but look good in a white suit, I suppose. But why bring out another Spanish talent with Ricky Martin, who came on and sang about 7 words and then disappeared again into the long grass? Why was it all in Spanish? Why was it such an affront to Americans? Yes, Puerto Rico is an American territory, and so are a number of other places. The singer, this Bad Pussy Bunny, whatever he is, got to the end of his 13 minutes and then went through and stated all the Americas. So every country, if you like, in North and South America. And he quoted them as the America. We are America. And slammed the ball down in a touchdown kind of fashion. I don't think Donald Trump was terribly impressed with all of that. I think Donald Trump is, well, I'm sure, not that I've seen it, but I'm sure Donald Trump would have been truth socialing his thoughts on the entertainment at the very least. And what goes on after that, well, who knows? these are satanic rituals. That display was to launch this artist globally, to try and get him a few more followers. And when I say a few more, he only needs 100,000 or so followers before the American algorithms take over. And all of a sudden, he has 1 million followers. But does he really? No, you can't find anybody who really knows much about this bloke. I'm sure there are certain sections inside the Spanish communities, the Puerto Rican community, the Brazilian community. But outside of that, nothing, and no relevance to the American audience. So something that is such an American thing, I mean, everything stops. The farmers come in off the tractors. It's, everything stops in America for Super Bowl. And then they insult America with a halftime show like they put on. And there are a lot of celebrities dancing around, if you want to call what they do dancing in that thing. Jessica Alba was in it, amongst others, all sitting there twerking, waving their asses, wiggling their cheeks and thinking, oh, this is just, it's really pathetic. It actually is really sad. I mean, I'm all for good dancing. I can appreciate good dancing. What I can't appreciate is slut dancing. What else would you call it? I don't know. Too old. And maybe that's my problem. Just too old. Of course, Andrew Mountbatten is having a few problems about age at the moment too. The age of the people he tends to sleep with. He's had another kick in his royal ring this morning, and that is come direct from the biggest ring in the land, the king. So the king's ring kick has come in the form of a public announcement that he, the king, will stand behind and support any further investigations into Andrew Mountbatten and his horrible little antics over the years that have all now apparently sort of caught up on him. And I say apparently sort of caught up on him. There are a lot of people who are coming out and saying, including the king, but there are a lot of people in the royal family coming out and saying some interesting things. Edward, the king's youngest brother, was waving the UK flag somewhere recently and was asked about what was going on with Andrew. And he just said, we're all very, very supportive of all the victims. There are many, many victims in all of this, and we are very supportive of all the victims. That led me to believe that he was referring to Andrew as a victim as well. And now we've seen the king come out and make a statement similarly that could be read, we're obviously very upset about all the victims and we feel for them and we're working for all the victims. But Andrew would be parading himself as a victim through all of this. There have been some movements on his movements, so to speak. He's out of the Royal Lodge and now he's living in a farmhouse that's not going to be his end stay. He's waiting for the new farmhouse to be sufficiently fluffed up to make him comfortable. But we are more than likely going to see the former Prince Andrew bundled onto a plane and sent to America to answer some questions to prosecutors over there who have serious questions to ask him. Now, those serious questions will have a lot to do about his old mate Epstein. Now, clearly the Epstein files have new morsels every day for us. Those people who are going through the files, there's 3 million pages, and they're not necessarily all grouped into, the one area or into any kind of semblance. What you have to do is keyword searches, and then pluck pieces from all over these 3 million documents to put one document together. It does take a while, but there are people with much better brains than me doing that, and they're putting new things out every day, and they're not little pieces of information. They are significant from a variety of different areas. Not just talking about Andrew, but they're talking about, well, in some cases, they're talking about the price of precious metals, which is probably a nice little segue. There is some funny stuff going on in the world of precious metals. Now, you're probably shaking your head and saying, oh, God, that bastard Leibold, he put me onto gold and silver, and I went and bought some silver the other day, and then the price fell out of it, and I lost 40% of my worth and all that sort of stuff. Well, you'll be happy this morning you've regained a bit of that, at least, a fair bit of that. And it was always going to be the way. Why was it always going to be the way? Well, because the market is in a bit of flux at the moment. But the one thing that does not and has not changed, regardless of how much paper you change from one pile into the next and how many times you try and convince people that paper is worth money or worth real value, the secret is out. And the secret is there is no value in the paper. There is in the physical. So the paper price crashed down to buggery, 70, I think it went down to $78 US, which is still well above the lows, or I should say the previous highs that we've had up until the recent climb where all the records were smashed. So even though we have had a big drop in the last couple of weeks, overall, generally across the chart, you are up. The trajectory is still moving up. And Donald Trump is making all sorts of noises as to how he can help America and Americans with their wealth going forward. Now, all of us, I think, are pretty much aware that the stock market is stuffed. It is in death throes. It is putting on a very good act, like it's still living and breathing, but trust me, it's dead. That's going to be exposed further and further in coming days. There has been reports come out over the weekend that on January the 14th, Donald Trump put out an executive order working along the lines to guarantee a base price for critical metals. And the base price that he suggested be set for silver was $120 to $160 per ounce. Now, I thought initially when I heard that news yesterday, I thought, oh, that's pretty exciting news. And then I started thinking, hang on a minute. Why would you cap, or why would you want to put a floor in to the price of silver? Why wouldn't you be putting a cap on it so the price couldn't leap and get unconstrained and go to the places where many people with much more knowledge and advice and skills than me can tell you they expect it to go? And that is into the hundreds, $500 an ounce range. Plenty of talk about that. So why would you put a floor price in? Had me thinking a lot yesterday. And the only reason that I can think of that you would put a floor price in is to stop China buying cheap silver out from underneath you and shipping it straight to themselves. At the moment, China is very good at crashing the price and buying the silver at a very low price. And we all know China have closed their export doors. There is no silver coming out of China, but they're taking plenty of it in. Why? They're stockpiling it because they need it for their industry, amongst other things. They also need it for their weapons. And that's why America needs it. And that's why all of a sudden Donald Trump is saying, well, maybe we should be looking at this floor. So this executive orders are very powerful tools. If he made an executive order and gave it to J.D. Vance and said, go and do this, it would get done. But Donald Trump didn't issue an executive order on the 14th of January. He issued a presidential proclamation, which is kind of like an executive order, but it doesn't carry the power of an executive order. An executive order is exactly that. It orders something, whereas a presidential proclamation is a suggestion of things you might consider doing. So this presidential proclamation has suggested that a working group should be set up to look at putting a floor price, and I don't even know how they'd go about doing this, but put a floor price in on gold and silver or critical metals, so that in the event of a crash, a market crash, China can't just buy it all up, stick it on a plane and get it out of the country. America have now included silver for the first time ever in the critical metals list. Previously, it was never considered to be a critical metal. I can't understand why, because it is in every electronic implement made. Every electronic implement. Silver is the best conductor. It is in so many things, and obviously in electric cars. And they're putting in many kilos into these sorts of things. So, I don't know, our silver and gold business, if that's what you want to call it, our investment, I believe is going to go back up again. So don't go and get too down in the mouth about the drop last week. You can already see the bounce has started. How long it continues for, I don't know. But I do get a feeling, just in my waters, not anything else, that it's going to keep going up at the moment. Could it go back down again? In a heartbeat, without a worry in the world. Are you going to sit there and pull your hair out over all of this? I had this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who's only just bought in and did buy a few $1,000s worth of silver a few weeks back. They bought when the price was around, I think, 150 something odd dollars an ounce. And then, of course, 3 days later, the ass falls out of the market. And I'm the world's worst person because I had them tip all this money into something that's now worth 40% less. So we had to have a conversation yesterday about how the market works and risk tolerance. Now, those are two words that I have got to say I've been completely unfamiliar with most of my life. But I have learned a bit about risk tolerance in the last couple of years. I tend to take risks, and I'm stupid, clearly, because when I do take those risks, most of the time they don't pay off. So I had a certain level of anxiety spending any money on any silver or, well, I haven't bought any gold, but I felt a certain level of anxiety doing it because it was the first time I'd ever done anything. I'm tying up cash, which ordinarily I don't have very much of. And I'm putting it in a box, that cash, in the form of a, nice coin or whatever it is, and waiting and hoping and praying that something's going to change and something's going to happen. There were many people who sold when the bottom dropped out of the market the other day, and they panicked. And this is what I'm talking about with your risk profile. If you are worried about investing in silver or gold, you should only ever put in what you can afford to lose. It's a bit like gambling, I guess. I'm not a gambler in that way. I feel what I'm doing, particularly with gold and silver or silver, is not really gambling because I'm keeping a close eye on what the market's doing and I'm listening to the experts. And I feel like I have some level of knowledge that will help guide me through it. those people who did sell when the price dropped last week and they thought, oh, I've got to get out now before I lose it all, probably did make a little bit of money. Unless they bought at the top of the market last week at, $150+ an ounce, the likelihood is that they bought well under $100 an ounce, probably under 50. So a lot of that is profit now, obviously. If you bought silver at $30 and you sell it for 100 and, well, even 110, sell it for spot at 111, you're still making a very, very good profit. So you need to look at your risk profile. If you are concerned that the price falling out of silver, like it did 2 weeks ago, could end you, then you probably shouldn't give yourself the anxiety of being involved in the market, particularly with the precious metals. The way I've managed to find a safe place in my heart with it, if you like, is I know that I'm getting the best advice there is. I know that even with the best advice, it doesn't always go that way. I minimize my risk because I guess I don't have hundreds of kilos of silver, or, my risk at the end of the day is measured in hundreds or thousands of dollars, not tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whereas I know people who lost 40% of their wealth, considerable wealth in metal, the other day, but they made a bit over 20% of that back already in the last couple of days. And I suspect it's going to keep going north today as well. The price will keep rising today. There will be the odd little pushback. There are some weird games playing in the market at the moment. But demand is demand. You cannot shake the demand. And right now, the biggest problem isn't fulfilling the demand. It's actually the supply chains. So those supply chains are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And I would suggest to you that your holding is going to get more valuable the tighter those supply lines get. And there's no there's no doubt that in the near future, that's going to go up. Let's get on to something a little more domestic, shall we? Jacinta Nampijira Price, the senator who is, I think, with the Liberal Party at the moment. She was with the Nationals, I think, at some stage, and there had been some calls for her recently, particularly to join One Nation. I don't think One Nation had ever approached her, and in fact, I know One Nation had never approached her because I saw an interview with James Ashby, who said, no, we've never approached her, but she would be good talent along on the One Nation how to vote card, I'm sure. Well, she's come out and basically said, no, that's not going to happen. In fact, she's called One Nation a grievance party or something like that, protest party. Well, I'm sorry, Jacinta. You might be trying to call them that and trying to drag them back to that. But at the moment, the party you represent are the minor party. At the moment, the Liberal Party of Australia is one of the minor parties in this country at 18% and dropping. Their popularity levels are not engendering support of the Australian public. Pauline Hanson's One Nation, on the other hand, is rocketing up the charts with a bullet. For mine, the interesting part will be to see in the next 3 months whether or not they can sustain this growth. If they can maintain that 27% level, I'll be impressed. If they can grow it, I'll be even more impressed. But where do they grow it? There's no point taking more and more and more votes away from the Liberals and the Nationals, even though they are the conservative hub of Australian voting, if you like. They've proved themselves to be liars, thieves, cheats, incapable of looking after the people's interests, and the people have turned on them. The people are now considering giving One Nation a go because, let's face it, could they do any worse than the Labor government or the Uni Party, if you want to put it that way? If you put, the the white lady funeral director, you put her up, well, that's probably unfair because there is no chance the white lady funeral director is going to be running the Liberal Party or leading the Liberal Party the next election. In fact, she'd be lucky to lead them to breakfast by Friday. She'll go. Will David Littleproud go? Don't know. Don't think there's much appetite for moving him out of the Nationals because I don't know that there's too many in the Nationals that want to step up and take the job. There is this Michael McCormick who's had the job previously. He was a waste of space. From memory, I don't recall anything that he was known for, remembered for. Mind you, you can probably say that about a lot of people, except Barnaby Bloody Joyce. You always remember what he did when he was in the Nationals. Went to sleep on the footpath in Canberra after a big night out. But, funnily enough, in Australia, that's more of an endearing factor, I would think. And he might well use that. Do you want that bloke as our Prime Minister? Well, he'd be no worse than Bob Hawke, would he? No worse than Bob Hawke. Probably a bit better in some cases. And he's got a sense of humour, which is something I don't think the Liberal Party have actually got anywhere in their heads, sadly. So Senator Napiera Price has called One Nation a protest party. She's not terribly well loved inside the Liberal Party. I would think she is going to have to run a pre-selection battle at the next election. And there are a number of very senior Liberals who do not want her to get that seat. So will they even put her up for pre-selection? Is she guaranteed of it? I don't think so. She might regret the comments that she's made about One Nation in the last 24 hours because at some point, probably in the next 2 years or next 12 months rather, the Liberal Party will be done of her. I think they're going to be done of themselves. I think they're all just going to implode. There's not too much you can do about it. But at the moment, the Labor government are giving the opposition the very best ammunition to bring them down. And what are the Liberal Party doing? Nothing. They're paralysed. They have no idea what to do, how to do it, who to put up front, what's going to make a difference. And why is that? Well, in my personal opinion, it's because they've gone through the book. They've told all the lies. They've pulled out all the secondary backup lies, and none of them have worked. The people are seeing clearly, well, maybe not clearly, but they're seeing a lot more clearly through the bullshit that surrounds Australian major political parties and calling it for what it is. A bunch of assholes who are not looking after us. They are looking after the corporate fiction. They are looking after their international globalist mates. The last people they think of are you and me, real Australians.
Tim Wilson.
Can't talk to you, Timmy. So this has got to end badly for politicians of all flavours that think they can treat the Australian people like this. And look, you can't blame them for thinking they can treat the Australian people like this because the Australian people have been led by the nose forever. We've been programmed to accept the government. But that programming is faltering. That programming is breaking down. More and more young people are starting to see through the farce that is the government. And maybe there'll be a bit more ammunition today when Jim Chalmers has to come out and front the world about some of his budget predictions. Now, there'll be a new budget coming out in May, I think it is. Right now, Jim Chalmers has overspent in the budget or wasn't able to do the budget correctly. He's overspent $55 billion with a B dollars. And that's in the first 6 months of this government. The Labor Party are going to send this nation broke as fast as they possibly can. But the Labor Party mates will be made very rich out of the rest of us going to the wall, because that's what the Labor Party does. They look after their mates. Well, that has to end. Their mates, the ones that have been stealing from us, taking taxes, taking, in some cases, lives through the actions that they've taken against farmers and others. Labor's lies will bring them down. But can One Nation attract more audience above the 27% they've supposedly got at the moment? Because if we see in the next poll that One Nation are 30, but Labor is still 34 or 35, then all that means is that they're decimating, One Nation is decimating the Conservative vote, but they are not pulling anything back from the Labor vote. That could still mean Labor would walk in at the next election. I don't think anybody in this country, outside of dyed-in-the-wool Labor supporters, believe that this country can survive another Albanese-style government. Albanese won't lead the next government. Be absolutely sure of that. Even if it is Labor, he will not lead it. He won't be allowed to. There is too many egos wanting to have a go in the big chair in the Labor Party, and probably in the Liberal Party and the National Party as well. It's something that they all do. So, challenges. Well, Angus Taylor. We're going to replace a white lady funeral director with just a funeral director. At least the white lady funeral director has style. I'm not convinced that Angus Taylor is the person who should be leading the Liberal Party, but he might be the person that needs to be sacrificed before the person who has to lead the Liberal Party out of the wilderness is allowed to lead the Liberal Party out of the wilderness, if they can. Do any of you care? Would you go back to one of these mainstream parties now that you are aware of just how little they care about we the people? And now that you're aware of just how little they consider what the people want when they make their decisions on what they're going to vote on, how they're going to negotiate, or even if they are going to negotiate. And in that area, I'm targeting Andrew Hastie for a variety of reasons. But he's now acquiesced. He's pulled his hat out of the leadership ring for the time being. And I believe that's because he was told, we're not going to sacrifice you this time round. You need to be around after the next election to be the leader. You're not going to make it this time. And that's where putting the likes of Angus Taylor up or leaving the funeral, the white lady funeral director in charge, 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. You're not going to win with either of them. But I don't even know at the moment, given that Andrew Hastie is dealing with a significant backlash amongst his supporters for the way he voted with the anti-hate speech laws. Now, he will tell you, I did everything I could. I did this, I did that, I made change. No. No, what you did is you came out and you said you weren't going to vote for it. And then through negotiations, you wound up voting for it. You haven't told us what those negotiations were. You haven't explained why they were so important. More to the point, you haven't explained what would have happened if the entire Liberal Party and Nationals had said no to the whole thing. Could it have still got across? Could the worst of it have got across? Well, maybe. But then it would be on Labor's and the Greens' heads for that. And they would be clearly to blame and would wear that at the ballot box. But no. Andrew Hastie decided to gaslight his supporters. And that's exactly what it comes across as. And I do have, but I'm not going to bother reading it to you, I have a huge response that he posted up to one person in his Facebook feed. where I found him quite condescending and belittling. You don't understand how the whole system works. And no, the whole system in Canberra is a poisonous wreck. It is a corruption factory running on overdrive that corrupts new people every day. Because if it can't corrupt you, you cannot work in the system. It is a completely corrupted system. So if you go to Canberra with love in your heart and fairy wings on your back and a halo around your head, rest assured you'll be strangled by your halo, have your wings ripped off, and you'll be buried somewhere deep in an office structure in Canberra, and you will be told what to do and when to do it. This is the power of the party versus the power of the people. When we get representatives representing us in that place, the party will have no power. But maybe. The party could have a lot of power. Depends on how many morals, I guess, are held by those inside the party. And we do know that politicians and morals. Very quickly, because I know you're going to be running off and doing things today as we go and get out. I'm going to touch on our security services, who have come out with an astounding statement, which many people are shocked about. I don't actually understand why they're shocked about it. I have no concept of why they would be shocked about it. Islamic extremism is at the top of the list of the greatest dangers to Australia right now. Now, that comes from the new boss of something new that the Labor Party have created. Another jobs for the girls, because that's what Labor does. All right. They don't give jobs for the boys. They give jobs for the girls. I've been watching estimates, Senate estimates. Again, all the misses, miss this, miss that, miss, who run these departments and who are full of smart-ass answers, who are full of bravado. They know no fear. They can tell a politician within reason whatever they friggin' like, knowing that there is no consequence for it. It disgusts me. Those public servants, the heads of departments for the Australian government, I believe, are friggin' criminals or incompetents. You can't have it both ways. It's one or the other. They are criminally liable, and they should be criminally liable for the things that they do. They should be made responsible for the advice that they give, for the manipulation that they instigate. Those bureaucrats should be among the most trusted people in this country, the most lauded, the most respected people in this country, because those bureaucrats ultimately have the responsibility of protecting us. Nothing gets done in the government without the bureaucracy. Remember that. But instead, Canberra bureaucrats are working for themselves and the elites of Canberra. They do not get out of that Canberra bubble, and there is a Canberra bubble, folks, and it's horrendous. But they will not get out of that Canberra bubble. Why? Because if they came out of the bubble, they would be abused. They couldn't survive out here in the real world. They need to have the protections of the Canberra bubble around them, because their incompetence would be laid bare. And if it wasn't their incompetence, then it would be their criminality. So our new National Intelligence Director is a woman named Kathy Klugman. Now, I don't know a great deal about Kathy Klugman. Apparently, she's worked for the Australian Public Service, holding senior positions for many years. the Department of Foreign Affairs. I guess, well, Mary Jane Liddickett was also working in the Department of Foreign Affairs. So you've all accused her of being a spy master. So does that make Kathy Klugman a spy master? Probably, because she's the head of the National Intelligence Centre. Do you notice how they've moved ASIO and ASIS to one side a little bit? They've added another layer above them. This layer, this Kathy Klugman layer. And look, she might be the most competent person in Australia for the job, but I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. This is a political appointment made by her political mates in the Labor Party. And I can't wait to see the shit fight that the National Intelligence Office develops into, because it will. An absolute shit fight. And I guess the one good thing that's come out of it is at least this Kathy Klugman has been able to articulate that Islamic extremism is the most concerning feature on our security front at the moment. Because hitherto, they wouldn't mention that. You couldn't mention Islamic extremism. I mean, Labor can't. They can't say the two words together. They just simply can't. Why? Well, because that might upset the people who they're bringing into the country to vote for them, of course. Oh, folks, it's just a shit fight. But it's one I'm enjoying watching. And I get the feeling it's going to be coming to a head, maybe. We are climbing the mountain. We're a lot closer to the top of the mountain than we are to the bottom. So I think we keep an eye out over the next few weeks. I think there's going to be a lot of very interesting things happening in America in the next few weeks. They had to let the Super Bowl get out of the way. There was a lot of talk about that Super Bowl being, all sorts of things, lots of intel for those who could see, and more particularly what happened after the Super Bowl. So now, looking at it in hindsight and seeing the kind of disregard that they hold the American people in, and that is the elites who put on the Super Bowl. The elite, that show was put on specifically for the elites, not put on for you and me. It was put on for them. It's their way of introducing new talent to the world and waving themselves around in public. It's absolute filth, and we will see more of it before we see less, unfortunately. They're going to fight hard, and that is also the big worry. People are now starting to realize what happens if the money goes? What happens if fiat stops? What happens if we are, for whatever reason, reduced back to bartering and trading, using silver, using gold if we have to? What's going to happen with our police forces? What's going to happen with society? There was a great conversation I had yesterday with somebody who believes that we stand on the precipice of anarchy. I think there is potential for that. I also believe that there are good people, and more good people than bad, who will organize, and there will be protections. But I also think we're a little way away from that yet, so I wouldn't go getting too upset. I would go and buy in the dip if you can find anyone who'll sell it to you in the dip. That's my advice for today. All right, I'm going to love you and leave you. I do have to hit the road today. I'm going to be doing a bit of a drive. I'm not sure whether I'll be back by the normal time tonight. I'm going to aim to be, and we will have a show tonight if I'm back in time. But if I'm not, then it will be, tomorrow night, or I may do another one tomorrow morning like I'm doing this, because I do want to keep talking to you. It's not that I don't want to see you. Definitely want to catch up. And so many of you are sharing information with me at the moment coming from all quarters. I'm struggling to actually get through it all. Today will be good because I'll be able to listen to a great deal of what you've sent me while I'm driving today. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. There's certainly some exciting times ahead, and I'm feeling very positive about it. For those of you who are feeling some level of anxiety about your investment, in the bullion market. Look, I don't know how you best treat your own anxiety in this regard. I have always been a very firm believer. For many years, I used to go to work scared I was going to get fired, until one day I stood up to the boss that I was scared of, and I've never been scared of being fired since, which is probably not a great thing in my career, but it took all the fear out of me regarding, oh, geez, what if I get fired? We are having the fear taken out of us on all fronts, folks. Embrace it. Embrace it. It's empowering. And when you've lost the fear, then you might be ready to fight. And that's going to take many forms, and we'll talk about them at the appropriate time. But yeah, be safe, be wise, try not to let your anxiety run wild. The universe has a way of working out, and I firmly believe God does have a plan for us all, and we win. So chin up. Market's bouncing. Go and buy it in a dip if you can find it cheap. All right, that's my advice to you. Hopefully I'll see you tonight, and if you are like me going out to battle the roads today, steer clear of the dickheads, folks. Have a good one. Bye.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!